Hey, we have a special show today. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm the host on Archery Talk 101. And we have Henry on the line, and he's going to spend his part of his special day with us. It's his birthday today. So happy birthday, Henry.
Thank you, Rick.
And
Thank you, Rick.
welcome to the show. And introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you.
I'm Henry Hawkins. I'm out of the Western New York area, Buffalo, New York. Been archery hunting since, I've been 18 years old. Gonna be 54 this year, so that's quite a long time. Work at a local archery shop up here in Buffalo, Doc's Archery out of North Tonawanda. And like I said, archery, I love it. There ain't nothing like it.
Yeah.
See a lot of local leagues and events and stuff like that.
So what do you do at the archery store?
I'm one of the associates there, Tech. I put the bows together, help do some repairs on them, fletch up arrows, cut arrows, sales, stuff like that.
Yeah, all the fun stuff, getting to talk to new
that's
archers.
the fun stuff.
Yeah, I remember when I had my store, that was the fun part, is getting a new archer come in there and getting them all set up and getting them set with what they needed, not what you wanted to sell them. My thought was, I'm going to sell them actually the least expensive item that works for them. That
Exactly.
way when they come in brand new. In fact, we just had somebody in the group ask, what do I do? I'm looking for a bow. And I said, well, start with I had a checklist that I can make available for anybody that wants it. But it's, what do you want to do when you first go in? One of the first things you want to ask was like, what do you want to do in archery, right? So whether you want to be in a recurve, a longbow, a compound, crossbow.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't tell you what to buy. It's all in your feel. It's got to be how it feels to you to handle the draw cycle, the whole 9 yards. I can't tell you, this bow is going to be perfect for you, because it may be perfect for me, it may not be perfect for you.
Right.
So it's got to be what feels good to the person who's buying that equipment to be good for him.
Yeah, I know not all bows are going to fit you. I know when I had my store as a PSE dealer, and Browning come out with this counter-rotating cams. As you drew back, one rotated one when you rotated the other direction. And it's like, oh, this is cool. I want to shoot this one. So I set it up for me. It's like, no, it was not the bow for me. I could not get it to fit me. And for me, it just didn't work.
Yeah, that was a weird one when they came up with that.
Yeah. You remember that one, don't you?
Oh yeah, it was a weird one.
Yeah, I thought it was unique. It was something different, and I was like, well, hey, let's try it. And there's just something about the way the bow fit me that didn't work. Now,
right.
I imagine there's others, like the PSE Baby G. You either loved it or hated it. There was no in between. It's like, yeah, that's okay. No, either it beats you up or you liked it. It was just a weird one that, some liked it, some didn't.
That was like the original PSE Omen. Some liked it, some hated it.
Yeah, that's you never know. And
exactly.
So which bows do you sell there at that shop?
Let's see. We're a Bear, PSE, Darton, Athens, and we have some APAs from in stock up there.
Some of them I was around when I was doing my store, and some of them was like, yeah, I never heard of some of these bows, and they all come out new ones. And I had people come into my store, and I didn't sell Matthews old PSE and Browning, because once PSE bought them out, I could order the Brownings on there. It's like, well, my next bow would be the best bow. Which one's that? And they'd always say like a Matthews. Well, quit listening to their ads.
Exactly.
It's not the best bow. Are they great shooting bows? Oh yeah, they're good shooting. I had one. I had a Matthews Q2 before I become a PSE dealer, and I shot it great. It was good shooting bow, and when I become a PSE dealer, there's no way I could be shooting a PSE. So I said, well, which bow I'm shooting? When I was down there, part of the dealer school, the cost was you got one of the bows. You pick whichever one you wanted. And I went down and told us like, okay, right now I'm shooting a PSE Q, or I mean, a Matthews Q2. Which one should I be shooting? That's going to give a run for its money. And they said, well, the PSE, Carrera. I still
Oh,
have it.
yeah.
That's my hunting bow. I still have it, still shoot it. And once I set that up and start shooting it, it's like, yeah, okay, I have no problem selling the Matthews.
No doubt. Like right now, I'm
So
shooting actors.
yeah, and that's a new one that I haven't had a chance to shoot. And I know Darton's been around for a long time, and of course PSE and Bear and a lot of them have been around for a long time. And I tell you, it was like most of the bow manufacturers nowadays, it doesn't matter the one that fits you.
Exactly. They're all good. Just like I said, it's a personal, well, not personal preference. It's fit. It's got to fit you.
Yeah, and I'll tell people sometimes like I can fit you in a $2,000 bow. If it don't fit you, go to the pawn shop and buy a $300 bow setup. If it fits you, it's a better bow for you.
Exactly.
And when I had my store, even though, of course, the more I sold, the more I made, because I'm completely on commission, because if we don't sell it, I got to eat the cost, and I would still
Yep.
go through and tell them, it's like, especially when you get into stabilizers, there is, as you probably know, there is a whole range from just a hunk of aluminum to the big fancy ones. And when the PSE, the Novas used to come with a stabilizer at one time. And when they stopped doing that, then I'd put on the cheapest stabilizer I had and have them shoot it. Then I put on a more expensive stabilizer and shoot it. And I'd say, can you tell the difference? No, buy the cheap one. If you can't tell the difference, why spend the money? And same thing on bows. My idea was, I'm going to sell you, well, at that time it was PSE Nova. I'm going to put you into a Nova, the Nova kit, which is nice about those. They come with the sight, the rest, the quiver. Some of them come with a sling and stabilizer. And then I would make sure, if they didn't come with a stabilizer, I'd put a stabilizer and a sling on it. And I put you half a dozen arrows with points on it. And I give you, at that time, PSE had these really, really cheap releases. We sold for like $20 and my cost is like 11. And I included that in the kit. And then that's how I set up. Plus it was set up and correctly. And I give you shooting instruction with it. Nobody could price compare it, because you go to Walmart and buy the same bow, but this plain kit, no arrows, no setup, no nothing. And I actually had a guy come in and say, hey, what would it cost me to have you set up my bow? First he asked, could I set it up? And I says, well, you can bolt stuff on. Doesn't mean it's going to be right. I charge $40 to set up a bow. I didn't sell you. And then also I include shooting instruction. He says, well, I think I'll take it back and buy it from you.
Yeah, we do the same thing up there, docks. After you buy the bow from us, we set it up and whatnot. And then when you come in to pick it up, go out on a range, we show you how to shoot it, any final little adjustments and stuff like that to it,
Yeah.
And make sure you're sighted in before you walk out of the shop.
Yeah, because last thing we want to do is have a new archer getting out there and don't know what they're doing and get hurt or lose all the arrows because their sights aren't even close and they don't know how to set them. And one thing we never did is like, can you set it up for me and sight the pins in? It's like, then I'd have to go shoot your deer for you. Oh,
Exactly.
Well, yeah, because it's set up for me.
I can get you close, but I can't get you right on for you.
Right. And if you like, you've probably done so many of them that now I can basically just about get it set up where it's really close, right off from setting them up, just eyeballing it. I can take, what I used to do is take a look at the string, center it and riser, center the arrow so that I looked right straight down there, take the pins because you're using a peep, line them up with all that. And now the left and right's pretty close. And then you can, the up and down is best what you had to do. And, out of the box that way with the basic setup, from doing so many of them, I knew basically how to get it set up and at least get you close.
Getting at least hitting the target bell, you may be a foot or so low, but still at least you're hitting the bell and we got somewhere to work with.
Right. And each anchor point's going to be different depending on where you anchor. Now, I always thought with the wrist strap, taking the knuckle, right there at the hand and putting that in back of the jawbone right there, the pocket of the ear. And that's a good starting point. Now we adjust. I always says like, okay, this is how you do it. And this is why. And then we modify.
Yeah.
That works.
But that's where we go. We go right into that little nerve, that little pocket right here on the jawbone with that knuckle, and
Right.
hopefully hit that every time.
Yeah. That's actually a great pressure point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Put the thumb, put it in there.
Before I shoot, sometimes I'll go and I'll stick my finger in there for a little while and just kind of flare that pressure point up so I know when I hit it with my knuckle that I'm in the right spot.
Yeah, I never went that. I've had that pressure, doing martial arts. I've had that pressure point worked on a few times. So,
oh yeah, it's there when you hit it right.
Oh yeah, and it's such a cool pressure point because as long as you're stimulating it, it keeps hurting. As soon as you stop moving your thumb, it quits hurting. So it's not a pressure point. It's just you have to keep moving it.
Exactly.
Kind of fun things, and the way I teach, I've kind of incorporated martial arts. I did Hapkido for about 20 years, and now I'm probably a little bit too old to do too much of it anymore. But I incorporated what I learned when I went to school and learned the back tension release, and I incorporated that along with the martial arts, and then that's how I teach. I've combined them because body mechanics is body mechanics. And some of the things I learned in martial arts I incorporate in my archery teaching, and then what I teach, I always tell them is like why I'm telling you do this. Without the why, it's like why am I doing this? I told you so. Yeah, that don't fly. They're not going to do it. It's like, why am I doing this? Well, this is why, and it seems to stick a lot better.
Yes, it does. It definitely does, especially with the younger kids that we get in. We run a couple of youth programs throughout the winter and summer and work with them to make sure they hit the right pressure points like that with the compound, with the releases. Once they hit that and start shooting great, you can see the look on their face. It's just like,
oh yeah,
wow. And they have so much more fun when they're shooting better.
Oh yeah.
Compared to when they can't find a target,
Yeah, it's definitely better when they hit the target. The nice ones is when somebody comes in with somebody else that's looking at a bow, and they say, hey, you want to shoot one? It's like, nah. It's like, well, let's set one up. Let's just shoot one arrow, and then they finally agree. Okay, I'll shoot one arrow. And then as soon as that arrow goes on, it's like, ooh, this is fun. Can I do it again?
we get that a lot. Especially with the recurves. We do a lot of recurves up there. And a lot of our lessons are done with the recurve. And a kid and the mom says, can I try that? Next she's buying the kid a ball, and a week later she's buying herself a ball so she can shoot with her kid,
Yeah. What better time to spend your time shooting archery, with your kids. And
exactly. We see it probably almost daily up there with people doing that.
James, one of the guys in the group, says that you're never too old. It's just that stuff doesn't quite work right.
You're right. You're never too old to get into archery.
Yeah. Yeah. Archery is one of those sports that, with a 5-pound bow, you can get 3, 4, 5-year-olds shooting them, and even get starting off with the little toy ones that, you can start them off at 3 years old and shooting. And I know my youngest, he started when he was in Cub Scouts. Actually, he started shooting a lot of archery, probably almost 23 years ago now. And he'd come down to the range, and he was like 5 years old in Cub Scouts, and he'd come down and he'd shoot all day long at the range, come down and shoot. And he had a whole pile of arrows, all the arrows that are too short for me or anybody else, you cut them down and you make them work. And he'd probably shoot 20 or 30 arrows and then go pull them, and then shoot 20 or 30 arrows and go pull them again, and do it all day long. And um, yeah, had a lot of fun doing it. And I even had his Cub Scout pack come in and shoot one day. They had a lot of
Oh,
fun.
yes, that's when we get Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts come in, and some of these kids have never touched a bow a day in their life. And then at the end of the session with them, can we come back and do this again? Smiles on their face, laughing and giggling, the whole 9 yards. It's awesome watching them do that, From never touching a bow to hitting bullseyes and wanting to do it again.
Yeah.
It's just, you got them hooked. That's the point. You get them hooked. And my opinion, kids and younger adults are the future to this archery business.
Right. Yeah, I know that, the kids can learn, a lot more than what you realize they can. I know when my son was in Cub Scouts, we went out to the scout camp up here, and of course they had archery up there, and the guy running the range, my son's on the range, and I'm not really paying attention to him because he knows what he's doing. And in fact, one time, they always had to have a parent behind him, and I let some other parent go behind him, and I picked another kid. I went down so I could help him out, because I think my son probably knew more than the guy standing behind him. But they just had to have an adult behind them. And I remember one time he was up there shooting, and he raised his hand, and the guy comes over and says, "Yeah, Jerry, can I help you?" And he says, "The knock point's off on this bow." He knew enough as a 6-year-old to know that the knock point wasn't right.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things that he'd shot enough, he knew where it's supposed to be, and it wasn't there. And
he knew something just didn't feel right to him.
Yeah. And I was expecting to shoot really well, because he always shot really well, and it was a lot of fun. And when I closed my store, I took a lot of my traditional type archer equipment, the arm guards, the gloves, tabs, and took it up to the scout camp and said, "Here, you can have them." Because selling wasn't gonna do much good, because I sold a bunch of my releases, my Scott releases, on eBay, and they went for like $10 a piece, and that was probably a third of what I had to pay for them. Nobody
Right.
really wanted them. So if I'd have known that, it's like I took them to the one archery store and sold him for half of what he's gonna pay for them new, and I'd have still made more money. But that you learn once you put them out there, and then it's kind of hard to back out. But that's why I don't do the eBay anymore.
eBay's funny sometimes with stuff
Yeah.
like that. You just figure out how can they sell something so cheap when you work in a business, know what it costs, but how can they sell that same thing online as cheap as they are
Yeah.
sometimes, or expensive they are,
Yeah. It could be that, they went, like when I closed my store, somebody come in and says, I'll buy all your archery equipment here, I'll give you 30 cents on a dollar, and I'll buy everything all in one shot. And sometimes if you're closing, it's like, well, okay. And then you sell it, and then they can sell it for half the cost of new, and wholesale, and still make money.
Right. That is true. I know I've been in the outdoor business, probably majority of my life, and worked at a couple of bait and tackle shops up here in the Buffalo area. And shops I worked for, they bought out a couple of stores that were closing down. They did the same thing, and then they come back and they can sell it at shows and trade events at a third of the cost of what they sell them in their store, and still make $1 off it,
Right. Well, that's just business.
Yeah, exactly. Business.
You buy wholesale and sell retail, and anytime you go buy anything, you're paying retail. That store owner did not pay that for it. But
yeah, it's a 40 or some odd percent markup on everything.
Yeah. Well, and then when I was in the roller skating area, if you paid $100 for an item, you sold it for 200. You doubled your money. And other places aren't that quite of a markup, and other things are. It depends on what you can buy it for, and when you can make a little bit more money on it, and not gouging them on the price. If the the price sells for $100 and you're trying to sell it for 150 or 200 because there's a shortage on it. That's I think that's kind of a not a good way to do business, because then when they come back down, everybody remembers that you tried to gouge them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and I remember one guy one time, he says he's this guy come in, he says, yeah, I don't remember what the guy's name is. He sent me in here because he said he knows that I won't try and oversell him, because some of the archery stores would oversell them, especially those that the salesmen are working on 100% commission. So you've got a $20 item and a $50 item. They're going to recommend the $50 item because they make more on their commissions. Yeah, where
Right.
I'm not going to push you into something that you can't afford, something that you're not going to know the difference. You know, we talked about on the stabilizers. You know that, you know, buy what you can afford, and that's why I recommend. I always sold a lot of the PSE Novas. You know, they come in, if you remember right, they come in 3 different lengths, and right and left-handed. And what I did to accommodate any archers, I had 2 right-handed bows and 1 left-handed bow in all 3 of those. That's what I stocked. And it's kind of interesting how the last year I had the store, 40% of the bows I bought was left-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, we've seen a big influx in that too.
Yeah, if you stock them, they're going to buy them because they go to other ones, you know, especially the high-end ones. Do you want to go in as a right-hander and have to shoot a bow left-handed to see if you like it, because they don't have any right-handed bows? The same thing, you know, left-hander, you know, being left-handed. Do you want to go to the store and have to shoot a right-handed bow and make your decision on that when it's not how you're going to shoot it? And that's why I didn't stock a lot of the higher end in left-handed, just because the cost was quite a bit more. You know, they're $400-600 bows at that time. This is, you know, 20 years ago. You know, now they're probably $1,000 or better for them. I don't know what the, yeah. I try not to look at the new bows. You know, like people would come in, it's like, the new bow come out and it says, you want to try it? And they'd say no or yeah, and they'd say, well, can I shoot one? It's like, you gonna want to buy it? Because you shoot it, you're gonna want to buy it. You know, they're that nice. You know, when you get some of these high-end bows, they just so nice to shoot. And
Yeah, the average cost right now of an upper end bow is you're looking 12, 15, 1,800 bucks right now, and no matter what manufacturer it is. Like Bear with their new flagship, the Execute, that's around $1,100, $1,200. The PSE Fortis or the Unite, they're both up there around $1,100-1,200, and they're aluminum bows. You look at their Mach 34 carbon, that's around $1,900. Dart and Preludes are around $1,000. I mean, you look at your upper end bows from these companies, they're all dealing, you know, $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 right now or higher, you know.
And that's just a plain bow, no sights, no rest, no nothing.
Yeah, that's just plain Jane, nothing to it. Now you get into like PSE Brooder Drive, they're offered in plain bow or package, and they're pushing $800-900 as a package, and they're the mid level of the PSE. They're above the beginner, but not quite an upper end. A quality bow, but with a package, you know, you're paying still close to $1,000 right now.
Yeah, and that's hard to justify for a new archer starting out.
Right. That's why a lot of, like, we carry the Bear. We got the Cruiser G3s, the Legits, or the XRs, and they're on a starter bow full setup. They're pushing $500, between $500 and $600, which that's a little more comfortable as a beginner to step into. And there's nothing wrong with that, because they got such a growth rate as far as draw lengths and poundages go for them, that a younger kid or somebody getting into it can have that bow for quite a few years before they decide to step up. And if they got a younger brother, sister, or whatever, they can hand it down to them, you know?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with going to a pawn shop and buying something that fits you, as long as you know what you're
Right.
doing.
Like
Find out what you're doing.
we had a girl come in the other day. She had a bow gifted to her. Draw length on, I forgot what bow it was now, but draw length on it was 27 to 30 inches. Draw length. Took her over and measured up. She's got a 24-inch draw. I'm like, I'm sorry to tell you, there's nothing I can do with this for you because right off the bat, this bow is 3 inches too long for you. I can't get it down to your draw length. And you can shoot the way it is, but you're going to be way behind your head, which you're released to shoot, and you're not going to have proper form, and you're not going to like shooting it. It was one of the situations that I didn't know what to tell the girl. She's a younger girl, probably maybe 20 years old, just getting into the sport, and the bow was given to her. And she asked me for suggestions, what we had, and I showed her the G3, and she was going to bring her father in before the end of the month to take a look at it and see what they thought about, but she's really considering buying a new bow because of that, because she wants to get into it.
Right.
Then she started showing me trail cam pictures of her property up there where she's going to be hunting. First time getting into the archery hunting. She's got a couple black bear on there, a couple nice bucks hanging up on her property. And the one bear is, she's gun hunted, but she's never archery hunted. The one bear is like 15 yards in front of her camera on a daily basis in front of her tree stand. I'm like, that's going to be a nice bear, probably a 200, 250 pound bear. So she wants to get in archery and try to get a chance at him with the bow. I'm like, this, when you get ready, come on in and we'll set you up and have you all ready to go.
Right. Yeah. You got land like that. Yeah. Just get into archery, get in the right bow. That's the key,
Yes.
like you said.
Well, right now up here in New York State, bear population is crazy right now. They're in just about every single county of the state right now, black bears. I had a place down in Chautauqua County in the town of Stockton, and we had no less than probably 7 or 8 bears throughout the year, different bears on camera throughout the year that we've seen all the time, from early spring mom with 3 cubs, another mom with 2 cubs, big Bruins walking through there. It's just every county in the state right now has so many black bear up here in New York State right now. It's crazy the population took off the way it did.
Yeah. And you've got to control them.
Yeah. Like right now there's Lancaster, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo. It's probably 15 miles to the east of Buffalo, New York, just past the Buffalo airport. Right. They had a report put out earlier last week in one of the town parks of a black bear walking through in people's yards, raiding their bird feeders, all the fun stuff that the little troublemaker bears do.
Oh, yeah.
3-4 years ago, we had one right here in the town of Amherst, right by UB North, that they had out there for, a month and a half, 2 months before it ended up getting hit by a car, unfortunately, and they had to put it down because it was injured, unfortunately. But, it's that time of year that the younger bears are pushed away from mom so she can start her breeding cycle all over again.
Right.
And, unfortunately, they pushed, the young Bruin, the little males away or the sows away, they're going to go try to find their own area.
Right.
And then move in different sections of the state,
Yeah, they're just multiplying like crazy.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah. James has another comment. It says, I got my kids, their wives, and my grandkids into traditional archery. It's what I know. It's been a good time, a good bit of money gearing him up, but it's been worth it.
Oh, most definitely. most definitely. I'm getting ready to get my daughter. She turns 21 next week. And I'm getting ready to get her to teach her how to shoot. And I'm going to teach her my other recurve and get her into it, because she's always expressed an interest of wanting to go bow hunting. I've had her out with a crossbow and a gun already. And she's always shown interest in getting into bow hunting. So I'm getting ready to have my boss up there at the shop, give her some lessons and teach her how to shoot, and, see how she likes it. I know she will, because she loves the outdoors.
Yeah. And if you like being outdoors, and you do rifle and do crossbow already, then, have a recurve or longbow or compound, kind of the next step of having a lot of fun. And
Oh, no doubt. I mean, when I had the property down in Stockton, we're doing the food plots, she'd be out there helping me throw seed down. Or when I'm doing mock scrape, she'd be out there, help me scrape the ground for the mock scrape and walking around and looking at stuff with me, picking out sign. Hey, Dad, look at that. You didn't see that track, did you? I'm like, no, I didn't actually, kid. She's probably thinking about it like this. I'm like,
yeah, sometimes we do it.
There's always
We've done it.
food out there.
Yeah, we've done it so much that, we're not looking that close. Somebody new that's excited is, they're looking for everything, and sometimes it's kind of nice to take a kid along, and they have better eyes than we do too.
Different, exactly. A different set of eyes, fresher set of eyes will spot something that you're not going to see, Like I lost an arrow up there shooting at a nice doe. And took my daughter for a walk back to check the tree stand and refreshing the scrape and check some cameras. And I walked through this area, oh God, 100 times. And she goes, hey, Dad, is this the arrow you lost? I'm like, yeah. It was, 25 yards from the tree stand. And like I said, I walked through her 100 times, never found it. She walks by there once and finds a arrow. I'm like, okay, kid, you got me on this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had no idea how I missed it,
Yeah, sometimes you get, so you look at it and you just look right at it. And I know I forget what it was. My wife was looking for something, and she says, where's the piece of this? And she was like 2 inches away from touching it. Because it was in a different, instead of laying down, it was standing up. And
right.
just didn't see it. It's like, where's it at? Last time you seen it was laying down, now it's standing up. And
throws them all off right away on it,
Yeah. I've done the same thing. I'm looking for something and I can't find it. She comes like, here it is. Like, I know I looked at that 3 times.
Yep. I do it at the shop. I'm looking for something, walking around looking for the glue to fletch arrows. It was just here. Where is it? Right there. Where? Right there. Who put that there? It was on the desk. It was just 3 inches from where I normally put it, and I didn't see it. I'm like, wow. Get the eyes checked,
Yeah, hey, don't let it get to you. Just go on. It's like, well, okay, we found it. Now we can go use it.
Have a laugh about it and continue on,
So tell us about some of your hunts you've been on.
I hunt mostly New York State. I probably hunted every single county in the Western New York area, from Niagara County down to the Pennsylvania border into Allegheny, Steuben counties, Cattaraugus, Wyoming, Genesee. I hunt mostly whitetail, and this is actually right now my favorite time of year to prep for the upcoming hunting season. Be it, I have cell cameras in the woods year round. I run them on video. I don't do still photos because, a still photo will give me a picture of the deer.
Right.
I run them on video because now on that video, I run 30-second video. I get to see where they came from, where they left, and actually, if there was more than one deer that walked through, or bear, or whatever. And, I can pinpoint my trails I want to watch. When I'm in the stand, like say a food plot, I'll know what trail those deer are religiously using coming into that food plot. So now when I'm in my stand, I know approximately where they should come out at, where they're exiting at. I learn the bedding area that way, or major travel routes that way. And I use the trail cameras, like I said, I do mock scrapes. I start my mock scrapes now in July to start basically patterning the bucks. but the does also use them right now. Also, communication. And I use my trail cams to select my locations for my mock scrapes. And if I know the property I'm hunting as well as I should, I'll take over last year's scrapes, the natural scrapes, and I'll use my buck urine this time of year, which I prefer antler ice, which is another New York State based company around in Canterbury, New York. It's a frozen deer urine. It's awesome and stuff works. Trust me, it works real well. And I'll freshen them up every couple of weeks, but I'll go to old scrapes from last year, clean them up, throw some the fresh buck urine down in it, and I've literally had within 15-20 minutes from me setting that scrape up of deer on the scrape already. And I'll just monitor. I got a notebook. I got a page in that notebook for every single camera I run. So when I pull cards or sell cams, I'll write down date, time, wind direction, temperature, which direction he came from, and log it all down. So now I got a history of when this deer or these deer are coming in there. So I know as far as getting ready for the hunting season of approximate time to expect the action to happen,
Right.
And like I said, I do a lot of 3D shoots this time, throughout the winter. I shoot the Niagara Frontier Winter 3D. They go out there in the bitter cold winter, blizzards, snowstorms, wind, ice storms, shooting 3D animals. It just hones your skill for when the season's here.
Right.
Throughout the summer, I shoot a lot of field archery, 3D events. We just a group of us from Docs just went down to Seven Springs, Pennsylvania for the tax shoot beginning of June. That was fun. That was real fun, shooting outwards of 120 yards with a bow. And, you hit a target at 120 yards, there ain't no reason why you can't hit something at 20.
Right. That's what I found is if you try the longer shots, you develop the longer shots, and the close ones are, it's like you're so tight, on your groups. I used to start at the indoor range 20, 30, and then 40. And then if I go back up to 20, I'm smacking arrows, where you're not quite that tight start with it. It just helps you focus a little tighter. And
like with the field I'm shooting, I shoot at a club here in Buffalo area, Double T Archery Club. And I'm in their summer field league. They got a recurve one going and they got a compound one going. And right now we're shooting outwards of 70 yards, I think, is the longest target right now. And I actually smacked two of my knocks last week, one at 65, one at 58. And I'm like, really? Come on. Hitting him at that distance? He's getting expensive,
yeah. That's kind of why I quit shooting single spots, just because I was wrecking too many arrows.
Yeah. We had a guy that shot our NFA 300 league last year. Shot specifically center shot, single spot, because it was less movement. He was dialed in. That's what he wanted. Well, after his third or fourth Robin Hood of the league that year, was a 12-week league. He decided to go to a 5-spot. I've gone through 11 arrows this league by hitting them and busting them. I'm going to a 5-spot. It's getting expensive at, close to $120, $130 a dozen for arrows. It does get quite expensive when you're busting arrows up like that,
Yeah, when arrows $10, $12, and then
yeah. And you got some of these guys that are shooting some, specific target arrows that's got tungsten tips in them, where the tips are running $40, $50 just for the point. And you're pushing $100 per arrow now on some arrow, believe it or not. And they're smacking them. They get upset.
Yeah.
At $100 an arrow.
Yeah, it's way more expensive than it was when I had my store. There it wasn't quite so bad, but I remember when I was first starting out, I'd get a set of aluminum arrows every year, and they were like, this is many years ago, probably 30 plus years ago. The double X78s that I was shooting at 25-12s, they were running like $60-$70 a dozen then.
Yeah. And that was
And
expensive arrows.
oh yeah, because I could buy like the game getters for, was it $20 a dozen?
25, $30. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm buying the better ones because the straightness. I
Yep.
found I grouped a lot better with the 1.5 thousandths straightness as opposed to the 6 or 7. And I've proved that several times. The straighter arrow is going to tighten your groups up. I had a buddy of mine, he was shooting I think it was beams or something. They're like a 3,000 straightness. And I says, my arrows would work for him. I says, here, shoot these. And amazing, his group was about half the size it was shooting the other arrows just by shooting mine. And they weren't really spined for his bow, but they were, that's when we were shooting carbons, and I was shooting the PSE carbons. That's still all I shoot, because when I closed my store, I kept all my Comp Pro 300s. I kept
Those
them
are good
all, and
arrows.
I had lots of dozens of them. So I kept them, and I didn't get rid of those because that's what I shoot, and I didn't want to have to, sell them all off. Now I got to buy some more arrows. So I'll never wear out my arrows because I got too many of them. But
All you gotta do is just, cut them down and refletch them when you need them.
yeah, I've got a lot of them all fletched up, and I would fletch them with a reflective white wrap below the fletching,
Yep.
because then the flashlights would catch it. And I found one of my arrows underneath an evergreen tree because the flashlight hit it and it just glowed. I'd have never
Biggest
found
thing
it
now,
otherwise.
biggest thing now we're seeing is people wanting the illuminated nocks.
Right, the Luminox, those are
Luminox
really nice.
or
There's
yeah.
another brand out there, I forget which one it is. There's a couple different ones out there, but I know that the
Yeah.
Luminox what I used, and I had one. I had it in my hunting arrow. I shot at this deer, and there was a little bitty branch between me and the deer I did not see. That arrow hit that branch through because the light was on. All of a sudden, the light goes off, and my knock went flying. Never found it because I found the arrow with no knock in it.
I had the same thing happen 2-3 years ago, hunting a food plot. Nice big doe come out. I ranged her at 31 yards. Drew back on her. I knew I was on at 30, put the 30-yard pin right on her. Touched off. I'm like, what was that noise? Arrow, I watched with the knock go right over her back. I'm like, that's odd. She jumped, went up about 4 more yards and stopped. I'm like, okay, I'll try it again. Knocked another arrow, come back and did the same thing. What was that? I sat there looking because she had her second shot. She ran off. I sat there looking. My tree stand was in a pine tree. And a little branch that came out in front of me, a little twig that I could not see with my naked eye looking through my peep at my sight. Both arrows caught that branch and deflected over her back. I'm like, really? Next day, that branch was removed from the tree.
Yeah.
I went out the pole saw the next day. The next morning, got up in that tree and cut that branch out of the way. No more issues hitting that branch.
No. Yeah, I one time I was sitting down in a tree stand. This deer comes out and I shoot, and it just completely missed. Well, my lower limb hit my tree stand.
Oh,
and
oh,
it just shot it. Yeah, I missed. It was like probably 15 yards away. I missed it by 5 feet below it because that bottom limb caught just enough of the stand that it just tipped it way down. It's like, oh man, you don't think about that. When you have
not at all.
They're longer and they're actually easier to shoot, but then you have all those problems that the new short bows, they don't have that much of a problem like that, but they're hard to shoot because that string is so far away from your eye. It's like inches away instead of being right up at your eye for the peep. And yeah, I don't like the short bows.
I did notice that last year and this year, the shortest bows we're seeing out there right now are in the 30 to 31 inch axle to axle. Shortest where a couple of years ago, a couple of companies had them, 28, 29. Like Bear had the Bear Divergent, which was 28 inch axle to axle. PSC had one, I forgot what it was now, it was also 28. Now they seem like the companies are getting away from them ultra short bows. And they're starting to go back up into the 30, 31, 32 inches are like probably the most popular axle to axle right now in any of the bows from any of the companies that we're seeing. And I think, like I said, the shortest one I'm seeing right now is a 30, which is starting to get back into the longer bows again. So I want the manufacturers figure the same thing everybody else is, that being so short is really throwing a lot off,
Yeah, I can see a short one if you shoot out of like a blind where you don't have a lot of height and you don't have the room. Like a longbow out of a blind is going to be tough to shoot because it just needs so much height. And if I'm going to shoot something that short, I'm going to shoot one that shoots horizontally, called a crossbow.
Exactly.
If I want it that short, I'm just going to give me a crossbow and be done with it. And I had to go to release. The first bow I had was long enough, like 38 inches or something like that, and I was shooting for fingers, and then my ring finger would go numb, and then I had to go to release because it kept going numb on me when I'd shoot. And so I went to release, and then now they're getting, they got shorter and shorter, but now they're not too bad, but I can still draw back and have the string come up where it touches my nose, and I can see through the peep. And those real short ones, you can't even touch your nose on it because they're so sharp.
Yeah. Like mine right now, the two that I use mostly right now is my Athens Vista 35, which is my target bow. I used it for hunting last year. 35 inch axle to axle. When I draw that back, my hand's right at that spot in my ear, right across my nose with the string. It's perfect. The one I use this year is Athens new model, which is the Elevate, which is 32 inch axle to axle. And that's just the same thing. Come right back. That string is right there. Everything is just locked in place nice. And that bow is a tack driver. I'm ruining a lot of arrows with that bow.
Well, and then too, your draw length makes a difference too. If you've got a 26 or 28 inch draw length, it's not too bad to have, the shorter bows, the 28, 30. But if you're shooting like 29 or 29 and a half, like I shoot 29, by the time I draw back those couple extra inches, that makes it even, more weird to shoot for me anyway. Some people like it. I don't.
String angle.
Right.
The more radical string angle at the longer draw length with those shorter bows.
Yeah. And now it's like, how do you get your anchor? You got your one anchor point where your knuckle fits on your face or where your hand fits on your face. And if you have any variation at all, there's no reference to where it's at. Where I have a kisser button. So now I have my anchor point. I have the kisser button, touch the tip of my nose and the peep. So if I line that up, I can shoot my wrist strap or I can shoot my handheld. Either one. My anchor point is slightly different because my hand turns. Instead of being the first knuckle, it's the third knuckle is right about there. But I don't worry about that because my hand can do anything at once as long as those 3 points are lined up. It doesn't matter where my hand's at.
Right. Exactly. Like I used to use a Bomar nose button. I got rid of it, not because I didn't like it. Just those little sharp points on that thing after a while would cut the inside of my nose up from where I put it right up in here. It started hurting after a while. I'm like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll cheat and I'll tie a piece of serving at that spot of my nose just to give me a reference point where it touches my nose. So it's the same spot, the same time, as long as I touch that little piece of serving. Like my first bow I ever owned, my parents bought me the first year I got into hunting, archery hunting, which was, I was 18 years old. They bought me a Bear recurve. And that's when I took my hunter education, my archery course with. I hunted 2 years with that before I bought my first compound, which is an old Jennings Black Lightning back in the day. And after I got into compound, I put the recurve down and didn't touch another recurve until 2.5 years ago when I started going up to docks, working at docks. And screwing around one day, he's got the techno up there. A bunch of guys are up there on a Friday night shooting recurve in the techno. He kind of goes, grab a recurve and shoot. I said, I ain't shot a recurve in 25 years. He goes, grab one and see what happens. I went out on a bail. I'm like, wow, I didn't forget. I'm hitting center to target decent. Turn around and I went into techno. I had a blast. 2 days later, I was buying a little small target recurve off. I'm like 25 pounds. Been using that for a couple of years, and I just bought actually just received it. What's today? Wednesday. I ordered in back in March a Bear Kodak Hunter recurve. Beautiful ball. It just come in this past Thursday, I think it was. Got to shoot it for the first time on Saturday. Oh my God, how much I miss recurve. I think that's all I'm going to basically hunt with this hunting season, or at least for the first couple of weeks. And it's seen it. New York State opens on October 1st. So I think for the first 1 or 2 weeks, that's all I'm going to basically hunt what's going to be the recurve.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I've actually talked to on the podcast a lot of traditional archers, and they have a lot of fun, and some of them are really good shots too.
Oh, we've got it's funny to say that it seems like the traditional archery is really making a comeback, and we've got some guys up. We did, matter of fact, the one league I just won up at the Partners League. I just went up at the docks. Was a recurve league, and we were shooting out to 20 yards at the recurves. It was a Vegas 450 recurve league. We do one end at 10 yards, one end at 15, and one at 20. And we had 24 archers in it. And it was so much fun. Guys had their wives shooting, their kids their whole families were up there shooting the league. And it was a blast. And now we got the one club lunch has got a field eagle with a recurve that I'm shooting out to 20 yards. And it's so much fun hitting a target with a traditional bow with no sights instinctively out to 20 yards. There's nothing like it, getting back to the basics.
Yeah, it's simple. There's not a lot to go wrong, and it's just all you. The only way you can blame your equipment is if your string breaks, or your bow breaks. Other than that,
exactly.
It's all you, dude. You're right.
There's nothing. There's basically nothing mechanical on a recurve.
Yeah, it's so much simpler, and once you learn how to shoot with those, you're always going to have a skill that you can use, no matter what goes on. If you're stranded somewhere, you grab a stick and make a string for it, and grab another stick and put a point on it, and you got your food ready.
Exactly.
You got your chance of getting food.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun talking with all the different archers, and it's amazing how many are shooting traditional and what they're doing with that realm. And then you have the compound shooters, and it's amazing what they're doing, and in that realm. And there's just so many options for archery that it's just there's something for everybody in archery.
Yes, there is. Like next early May, group of us from docks are going to go down to Tennessee for the Tennessee TAC event. And we're going to make it a week-long thing. We're going to hit up a lodge down there in Tennessee and do a hunt war down there. And it's only archery. And I'm going to go after a hog, and I'm going to probably take the recurve. and see what I can do taking a hog with a recurve. I have my compound one, but I'm going to try to concentrate just on the recurve for one. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can always, if they're just coming in just out of your range, they'll just switch to the compound.
Yep. But I want to kind of concentrate mostly on the recurve and see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be fun. You'll have to let us know how that turns out when you go down there. Tell us about that trip once you get back from it.
I'll probably have my GoPro with me on that trip, and I'll probably record the hunt and probably end up putting it up and sharing it.
Oh, that'd be good to see that. That'd be a lot of fun.
I'm hoping, anyways.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what happens between now and then.
So what's been your most memorable hunt you've been on?
Let's see, my most memorable hunt that I've been on was the hunt that my father got his first archery deer. My father's been dead now 5 years. He died from cancer, but the hunt that I remember the most is the one he got his first archery deer. It was funny because I no sooner I got into my tree stand. We were running late that morning.
Low battery.
And we took the ATV in.
Low battery.
We took the ATV in. He dropped me off at the trail I walk up. And I had probably, 15-minute walk to my tree stand. Got up in the stand, got all settled in. I heard the ATV go off to where he was at because he was only maybe 200-300 yards away from me. And I probably wasn't in stand 15-20 minutes at the most. And he calls me on the radio, "Hey, I got one." I'm like, "Okay, I'll be there in a few minutes." He goes, "I got up after I looked, I got blood. But I lost the blood trail after about 10 yards. I'm like, "I'll be over there for a couple minutes, Dad. Give me a few minutes. It's going to take me about a half an hour to get over to you." I waited and stand probably another 10-15 minutes after I talked to him on the radio. Got down, kind of walked my trail back up to the main trail to him. Got over, he was sitting in the ground blind because at that time he was going through his cancer treatments and he couldn't get into a tree stand, so he was sitting in a ground blind. I got over to him, he pointed where the deer was at. I walked over, loaded with blood. I said, "Yeah, just stay there, and if I find something, I'll call you." I walked about 40 yards up the trail, and the blood stopped. Like, okay, had great blood up to this point, but where'd the blood go? I looked to my right because there was a small creek to the right. Didn't see nothing. I looked to my left, and there's a thicket with a ditch. And as soon as I looked to my left, I seen a deer laying just into the thicket in the ditch. I called Dad, said, "Dad, I found it. I'm right here." He come over to me, and he thought it was a doe. I said, "Well, this can't be your deer." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Because it's a 4-point." He goes, "Well," I'm like, "It's a 4-point." He goes, "You're kidding me." I'm like, "No, I'm not, Dad." I pulled it up, and his arrow was still stuck in it just behind the front shoulder. Behind the front shoulder, lodged in the opposite shoulder. And that was probably one of my most memorable hunts that I've ever had, was watching him get his first archery deer. And he was at that time 66, 67 years old at that time. And that's a hunt that will stick with me for a long time.
Oh yeah, that sounds like, a great story, a great memory, of being with him in the forest.
And just second to that is the year I got my first deer with the recurve or with the compound bow, was with an old Browning Summit, Easton game gear, the autumn orange, and the Bear Super Razorhead broadheads. And that's when the season started, October 15th, which was my dad's birthday. And that year he had a tragic accident in the house. He cut his hand pretty bad doing home improvement, so he couldn't hunt that year. And it was another real short day, opening day. I got in a tree stand about 5 minutes after sun up. I'm just sitting there enjoying the sun coming up in my face. I'm facing east, and the sun just rising in my face real nice. And I'm enjoying it. I look down, I got a doe standing 10 yards under my tree stand, just standing there, not even knowing I'm there. And that was my first deer I took with the bow. I hit her, drove right through her. I watched her take off, run about 75, 80 yards into a thicket. And I'm thinking to myself, please don't die in there because that's going to rip me apart getting you out of there. And she turned around and ran back and actually died 25 yards in front of the tree stand on the trail that I walked in on. I'm like, thank you. Now I got to get out of here without disturbing you.
Yeah.
I walked off the alternate trail I had, went up to the truck, or up to the campers. We had a place in Birdsville, New York that we were at that time. Walked up to the camper. My dad looked at me and said, what are you doing out of the tree stand already? I'm like, I got a deer. There's no way. Like, hey, so well, let's go get it. I said, okay, let's go. Him and Ma followed me back. I walked to the trail and walked up, and there she was laying right there where I watched her fall. Nice little doe. And that, that'd be second to my dad getting his first deer with the bow, with me getting my first deer with the bow. But a lot of memories I have from hunting that are just, I can go on and on and on and on and talk for hours about it. Because every harvest to me, or every time in the woods, is a memory that will last forever from being just in the woods. To me, hunting's not about the kill. It's the time outdoors, reflecting on everything that's around you. If I see deer, great. But, I'm enjoying seeing other wildlife out there, squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, birds, turkeys, whatever. Meeting new friends while I'm in different areas, being hunting state land like I did a lot of my life. I met a lot of people hunting state land that I'm still friends with today, that stop at the shop and say, hi, what's up? Communicate a lot with a lot of these people still, to seeing some of the biggest deer I've seen in my life that I've never been able to get a shot at. It's just every time I'm in the woods, it makes a different memory.
Yeah, it does.
And that's what it's about. A lot of people get hung up on hunting as being, oh, I didn't kill none today, so it sucked. Hunting is not about the kill. Like I said, it's about the time outdoors and reflecting about everything that's out there for us, that is there for us right now. It's being one with the nature, fresh air. If you had a stressful day, stressful week at work, now you're in the woods just sitting there relaxing, letting it all out, becoming stress-free. And that's how I look at it anyways.
Yeah, it is kind of relaxing when out there and you're not thinking about anything, you're just listening, and it's what we see out there as a bow hunter, all camoed up, or whether you're camoed or not, but all sitting there quiet, not moving. It's amazing what happens out there in the forest that, unless you're a bow hunter, you don't see.
Right, exactly. It's at that time of year with the bow hunt and the archery seasons, the animals aren't spooked like they are during gun seasons. You see a lot of different things, young animals, young birds, just different things that you don't get a chance to see any time of the year, any other time of the year.
Yeah, I know it's been a while since I talked about this one night. I was sitting in my tree stand, and the rabbits and squirrels and the birds, they're making noises, running around, and all of a sudden it got completely quiet. The birds stopped singing, the squirrels quit running around, the rabbits quit running around. Nothing was moving in the forest. It just got completely silent. It was like, ooh, this is kind of, I thought it was kind of neat, but it could have been also a little eerie that everything went away. But it was an interesting night. I didn't get anything at night, but yeah, I still remember the forest getting completely quiet, no sounds at all.
Oh yeah, it makes you wonder what's coming through.
Yeah.
What else is in these woods besides me?
Yeah, sometimes like, okay, let's not move. Let's make sure we stay quiet in case something's come through that I don't want to see.
Exactly. I mean, I've had, oh God, what is it? 2 years ago, hunt up in Stockton, evening hunt in the woods in a tree stand. I'm sitting there and I catch movement in the trees. I look up, it's an owl. And it landed in a tree about 20 yards away from where I'm sitting in a tree stand. I'm watching. I said, this is pretty cool. You don't get to see owls really much in the wild,
Yeah.
And I'm watching. All of a sudden, I catch movement off, almost in front of me. It's another owl that comes in and lands in a tree, again, about 20 yards away. I got two owls here. I'm like, either A, they're just landing these trees, or B, they think I'm a squirrel sitting in this tree. And I'm not liking this idea. I stood up, and as I stood up, they left the trees. I'm like, if I'd have sat there, what would have happened? It's something that's in my mind to think about it. Would they have swooped at me or what,
Yeah.
But every other, like you said, there were squirrels running around. And when those owls come in, it just got eerily quiet. Nothing was moving.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know, what's going on, and some animals just can't figure out what you are. When you're in full camo, squirrels, they can't figure out what you are.
Oh, they're funny. They come up a tree next to you, and they look at you and stare at you.
Yeah.
And stare at you. And you just, you're looking at them not moving. The minute you move, man, they turn around and they're jumping from tree to tree, just trying to figure out what was that in that tree that moved that was bigger than me.
I had one squirrel. It was on a branch, below me, just off the ground, and I was like, squirrel season open. So I reach in my pocket, pull out my wallet, open it, pull out my things. Squirrel season's open, because I have my hunting tag. So I put it back in there. Squirrel's still watching me the whole time. It's looking at me, not moving, just looking at me. So then I take my bow, I draw it back, and it's still looking at me, and I shoot. It was still looking at me till the arrow went through it. I had dinner that night. It wasn't deer, but it was squirrel.
Yeah, they're funny sometimes, those squirrels. They're just, they can't figure out what you are, all the movements you do and everything else. They just, actually, I think they think you're another squirrel in a tree. They don't feel threatened.
Yeah. But when you're walking through squirrel hunting, if you're not in camo, they hide. You got a shotgun. Sometimes you got to shoot just to get them to move so they can.
Yeah. You got to make moves, hit a tree or something, just to give them to move to figure out where they're at.
Yeah. They recognize you as a threat, whether you're just walking through or not. You'll see them scurrying around and running up, and
when you're full camo sitting in that tree, they don't know what you are.
No, they can't figure it out. It's weird that animal can't figure out. But then other animals, like a deer, you get movement, they're gone. They don't hang around.
And sometimes you only have to move for some reason. I think they can see you blink your eyes.
Yeah. Sometimes, or was wearing glasses. If we move right, the light might reflect off our glasses. And then they see that. But that's why my arrows are black because they're carbon, and I never really cared too much whether my arrows were camoed or not. Now my aluminum arrows were camo just because the XX78s come in camo.
Right.
Didn't really matter, but I always figured at the point when the deer can figure out you don't have camoed arrows, you're already in trouble anyway. So
exactly. If they can figure that out, I don't even want to be in the woods no more.
No, I on mine, I have a receiver that I can screw into the tree, and then I have it that my quiver fastens onto, and then I get the extra receiver because I have the PSE quivers, and I screw that in a tree, and I take my quiver off my bow, and I hang it up where I can get to it really easy, with my right hand. So I have one arrow on me, and I don't have any quiver on the bow because that's not how I sighted it in. And now that I don't have to deal with the extra weight, the arrows get in the way. If I need another shot, I can just reach back, grab the arrow, and load it. So I always hunt with it off of there. So if they're not going to see the fact that I don't have camoed arrows because they're sitting on side of the tree. Now I might see the reflective wrap I have on it. Those watching, you can see the reflective wrap when you hit a flashlight on it. It really glows. Now, are people watching? Are people see this? That you can see, how much that glows. Just this light's too bright. You can see it a little dimmer light. It kind of glows. you can't really tell. I thought maybe I might be able to see it, the difference in her, but I use those on my arrows and they shine up really nice at night. I suppose if I turn the lights off in here, it would help, but I got the overhead light on.
Yeah, I know a lot of people going to wraps like that with the fluorescent wraps or the wraps like that will reflect light for the same reason. They don't want to use the Luminoc or anything like that because the weight of Luminoc is like 15 to 20 grains heavier than a standard knock.
Yeah.
So they're trying to stay away from the weight, so that they're starting to go to reflective wraps on their arrows, or real bright wraps on their arrows that do not blend into anything else that's in nature like that.
Right.
And like you said, it's easier to find. If you miss an animal or you happen to go through the animal, you can see that bright color better than what you can anything else.
Right. Well, and I cut them in half. Normally they're twice as long as this, and normally you'd put them back here at the knock and then fletch over the top of it. Well, I don't like wasting those, so if I'm going to refletch, because having my own store, I've got plenty of fletching jigs, but if I'm going to refletch, I don't want to have to cut the fletching off and cut through the wrap, so I put it down below it, and then you can still read. On this one, it's not even further, but on most of them, you can still read what the shaft is, so what spine it is and everything else. This one is not a wood arrow; it's a carbon arrow. It's actually Gold Tips traditional arrow. It's looks like wood, but it's not.
Great. We saw a lot of those for the traditional guys with the recurves. Love the look on them.
Right, it looks like wood, but you've got the advantage of being carbon, and it still
Yep.
looks like wood. As long as your bow can set up to shoot them, why not? Right? They're not as heavy, but if you
A lot of
your tip
traditional
on
guys
that
love
help.
those arrows.
That's
What's
what my
that?
son shoot. That's what my son shoots out of his compound.
Really?
Yeah. Well, they're carbon, so they'll take a
Right.
compound. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
just kind of
true.
weird.
That's true.
Looks like a shooting wood, and but he's not. He's shooting a carbon arrow, and that's one thing you don't want to do is take a compound bow and shoot a wood arrow out of it.
Oh no, they're not designed for that.
No, they're going to snap. And I actually had a discussion one time with guys some places. Yeah, you can shoot wood out of compound bows, and I says probably one time you're going to have wood in your arm. And he said, "Oh no, you can get a spine right." I said, "Well, okay, maybe if you have one of the old wheel bows that don't have a lot of let off, where it's more
Right.
like a compound, or even possibly like an Oneida, which is basically a recurve. You could probably out of those if you get a heavy enough spine, but some of these new fast bows, that point would not even move. That arrow
No.
would just it just snap. And
With the kinetic energy the newer bows are putting out, that wooden shaft wouldn't have a chance.
yeah, wood, and I just don't like the faster bows because they're harder to shoot for most people. That's the biggest disadvantage I see of the fast bows. They want a fast bow, faster. They're shooting up in 340s and 360s, and they're hard to control. Unless you have perfect form, you're not going to control them. And everybody thinks all these new bows are fast. My 2001 PSE Carrera was rated at 320 feet per second. That was a 2001.
Wow. Like my Athens Elevate with the arrows I use for attack, I have them set up, especially if I'm shooting 100 yards. I wanted something that's going to get to a very little arc. Was shooting arrows, I'm shooting at 323. And my Vista 35 with the same arrows was shooting at 307. Now the Elevate's at 65 pounds. The Vista 35 was at 60 pounds. But I had those set up for long distance shooting, for attack and field. I shot my hunting arrow through the Vista, or the Elevate, which is going to be my hunting bow. I shot my hunting arrow through that and I was getting shot 3 arrows, and I was averaging, I think it was 297 with my hunting arrow out of it. And that was at 341 grain arrow. And the arrows I'm making up now for my hunting arrows are going to be around 360 grain. So it's going to probably knock it down to about 280 feet per second, which is fairly decent for a hunting arrow.
Yeah.
I hope.
Well, and when I was had my store, PSC come out with what they called the hunter shaft, which is a 7,000 straightness. So I ordered some in because I'm gonna order some in and try it and see what they're like. And being a 7,000 straightness, I normally shoot the 1 because I shoot the comp pros when I shoot. And with the comp pros, I can easily, get in the X ring. That's not a problem. I group fairly close around there. But with the hunter shafts,
Deborah Mitchell.
yeah, hopefully my wife gets that here pretty soon. Yeah, it's probably the phones they ring in in an inappropriate time. But yeah, anyway, it's just, I forgot what I was talking about. Crazy.
The PSE hunter shafts you were talking
Oh
about.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, the hunter shafts, they're at 7,000s. Now I could hold those with my broadheads in the white on the 5 spot. I can hold them into there. I can hold them into there, but I couldn't hold them in the X. With the 1,000s I could. That's how much difference they made. And so I tried them. I set some up, to hunt with. But what they come in as the PSE 400 spine, not the 300 spine. They're mismarked, so they're heavier.
Oh, yeah.
So when I went to switch back to the other ones, because my regular arrow was about 370 grains. Shooting at 70 pounds, that was kind of the minimum arrow I could shoot, but that's where they came in with 100 grain tip. So I had some weight tubes. So I had to figure, okay, how much do I have to add in here in weight tubes? So I'm cutting down the different grains weight tubes to get the weight up the same as the other ones. So now my hunting arrows have weight tubes in them to increase the weight. Otherwise, I wouldn't normally have done that. But when you go to a lighter shaft, I didn't want to reset all my pins.
Right. So you want to try to match the weights up to where they're at, so your pins are about the same as what they were before.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't want to go through and resight in my pins, because then I have to resight in all of them and then sighting in with broadheads, because the field tips do not hit like broadheads.
No.
They do not. I do not try to make them hit the same. I try to get all my broadheads to hit the same. And I have mine, because I shoot a Muzzy 3-blade, and I have 3-blade fletching, or 3 fletching. I use 4-inch feathers. I've been using feathers since the 60s, and I just don't want to switch. I just like feathers. So I get those lined up, and I put a little cone-shaped washer on it called a U-bar, and an O-ring, and so I can adjust them and tune them. Like you can direct the arrows where they line up, and then I'll put a little mark on it so I know that they're always lined up, because they can turn easily if you pull them out of the shaft, pull them out of the quiver and turn them or something.
Right.
But so I was able to tune them in. So now I can basically drill X's with my broadheads.
Yeah, the only thing I've seen it fly anywhere close to your field tip's a mechanical head.
Right.
And I like the Grim Reapers that I'm going to be shooting this year. I've shot the Rages, which I've had success with those. They don't fly exactly the same, but they're very close.
Right.
I may hit an X with my field tip, and I could probably be an inch or so left or right or high with the mechanical, and you just got, you got to adjust over. But then again, when you go back to your field tips, doing target or whatever, then you got to go back and adjust this and that and the other thing. It does get to be a little bit of a hassle back and forth with your sight, adjusting left and right, up and down at times.
Well, what I told you, if you can't afford 2 different bows, buy a second sight. For going for your target and your 3D and stuff, you're going to have a sight that you want there. Have a simple sight that you want to use for your hunting one, and I'll just unbolt it, bolt it back on. And
Right.
now then you can switch between hunting and target and don't have to worry about resighting your pins in, because that's a lot of work.
Yeah, the only thing you do on that when you redo that, 'cause I did that this year shooting the Techno up there. I had a shrewd scope on the one bow I was using for tack with a lens in it, and shooting Techno, it's hard to see anything with a lens. And I had a single pin CB hybrid tactics sight that I had on the bow. So every time I shot Techno, I took the shrewd scope and the bar off the Vista 35, put the other sight on it, went out on the range real quick, made sure my zero, just double check things before I
Right.
shot. Got a good one out, shot my Techno, put the bar back on it, went over to the 20-yard range, made sure my 20-yard was back on, and I was good again. Back, and I did that almost for 2 months, switching back and forth every time I shot between the two different things I was doing with the same bow. It worked out okay. And just, you got to do a little reassurance on it when you put it back on it to make sure everything's lined up properly.
Right. And then
A
I
little
had one
tweak there, a
time,
little tweak there.
yeah, I had one time, some of them have the bar that you can move in and out, so you have it close to the bow or further away, and
Yep.
that's why he's doing it. And he'd had it one time and he'd take it off and put it in a different spot. And I says, you can't change the distance that is. It has to be the same. Because, oh, it don't make any difference. Like, oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
So I says, move it all the way in. Let's go back to 40 yards and shoot your target from there. Now move the sight all the way out. Now shoot. Like, oh, it does make a difference. Yeah, it's got to be the same distance, because that's part of when I had a program one time that would calculate your drop and everything on different ranges and what distance to shoot, and so it would measure from your knock to the sight, or to the bow as your draw length was. It measured from your eye to the pin, and also measure the distance from your anchor point to your eye. So it knew how far up it was, how far the pin was away, and it knew all these dimensions. So it would know how fast the bow was, because you'd have to get a speed on it. You'd have to put on a chrono and get a speed. And then the weight of the arrow. So you'd weigh the arrow. So know the speed of the arrow, the weight of the arrow. It knew where you anchored, it knew where the sight was, and it'd figure out everything for you.
Figured out the sight tape and
Yeah.
the whole 9 yard for the bar.
Right. And I was able to do that. I did it, and I set my 20-yard pin on the 20-yard mark, and then I moved my 30, 40, 50, and 60-yard pin, lined it up exactly where it's at, and I went out and shot those distances, and I was right on.
That's what we did up at the shop too, is we go, like I said, double T archery, they got targets outside to 80 yards. We'd go out there and, we'd get our marks, get back to the shop, get in the program, make our sight tapes, line up to the marks, go back out, little fine tune if we're off a little bit. We go back and look at the other tape on the list and go back and forth and do a few other things on it real quick, and
Yeah.
line everything back up and get them lined up pretty good. And, my one bow is good out to 140 yards. I can get what my pin is on. So
I
yeah,
have trouble seeing that far. So those long shots, it's all blurry out there, so I can't see them out there.
It's fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun to be able to take some of those longer shots, but I got to go to a place where I can take those long shots, and first I could get where I can see the target. So that's the main thing, is seeing the target. But
I like laughing with them long shots like that. It's like, oh, I shot and I can take a nap. Oh, I hit the target.
yeah, you shoot and wait. Okay, let's just start walking down there, because I hit somewhere. I couldn't see it no more.
Like the one target we had this year was 126 yard full size moose uphill, and it was a crosswind, and I aimed where I thought I had to aim for the way the wind was blowing, and as luck would have it, as I shot, the wind stopped blowing and I hit the moose in the antler.
Oh.
That's where I had the pin aim for the way the wind was blowing, for the fear to drop and wind drift.
Right.
And stopped it. It's right where my pin was at, was right in the antler.
Yeah, the wind stopped and that's where it hit.
Exactly. I started laughing about it. Hey, at least it hit the animal at that distance.
Yeah, that's a challenge. You almost need like a spotting scope to sit there and it's like, okay, where did I hit?
Yeah, we all had binoculars out there and we're looking, I'm like, I'm in the antler. We all started laughing, having a good time about it, you know?
Yeah. Well, the long shots you have, that kind of stuff to deal with. Your really short shots, like a 5-foot shot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing how many people can't hit a target at 5 feet. And I know when I had my sight tape on there, I had the tape and I looked at it, it's like 5 foot. 70 yards, shoot it for 70 yards.
yep.
And sure enough, it was on a platform too. So you had an angle, you had to bend down, bend down. And then when you shoot, you had to have help back up because it's over so far. But I put right there where I knew it was supposed to be and shot and hit it dead center where it was supposed to go.
Just like in the field archery league, we got the foot target. And right now it's 11 yards, the foot shot's 11 yards. Look at our sight tape, and for me to shoot the 11-yard target, I got to set my pin at 23 yards. That's on a 100 target. When we're shooting a field target, it starts at 25 feet and moves up, and the closer you are, like 6 feet. And at 6 feet, my sight tape, my guide is 92 yards for 6 feet or something like that. And people said, 92 yards, you shoot. It's like, no, because your arrow, the way it flies with the arc, is still coming up at that distance. That's why you can shoot it how you can shoot it with the longer distance to hit where you're hitting because of the arc of the arrow.
Well, and then too, your pins are up here at your eye level.
Right.
The arrow is down at your mouth or lower if you're shooting, like Olympic style where you're anchored below your chin. That distance between your eyes and where the arrow is, that makes a big difference. I know when I was doing a couple of training videos, I'm down in my basement and the ledge I have, it's a little bit high. It's like about head high. So I was like, okay, I'm drawing back. Okay, I'm looking to see where the arrow, because I can't depend on where the pins are because I'm at 10 feet. So I got to make sure I'm aiming high because I don't want to stick it in the concrete block wall. That gets expensive and dangerous when you're standing, 10 feet away.
Yeah, an arrow can come back and smack you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it would come back and smack one of us because I was down there, my wife is videoing. So yeah, it's
somebody's
like, okay, let's
hit that wall.
Yeah, so I did hit it because I knew what to look for. I was like, okay, this is okay. I'm high enough because then I actually kind of glance at the arrow and see, okay, I'm high enough, and once I learn exactly where it's going to go, and
it's a learning curve, definitely.
Right, yeah, definitely something that you need to practice.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Be proficient with the weapon, you got to practice with it.
Yeah.
That's where it's all comes down to. Nothing like it. I probably shoot on a good week 700-800 arrows on a good week when I have time.
Yeah.
You know how it is from an archery shop. Sometimes you got time, other time, like now it's starting to get the busy season. There really is no time.
Oh yeah, when I have my shop, the busy time, you ain't got time to even hardly go hunt. I remember the first year I had my store, I was spending all this time in the store, and then I go sit in the tree stand, and all I can think about is what I need to get done, what I get done. I think I ended up hunting. It was probably 5-10 times where I could finally start relaxing and enjoying being out.
Exactly. I think I got out once last year, which was kind of low for me. But I had a lot of other things going on, but I got out once and ended up seeing quite a few deer, but no shots,
Yeah. Well, you just never know what's going to go on in your area. I've got an area that we need to get rid of some of the coyotes because there's a coyote den right where they come through, and it's a property that doesn't hold deer, and they come through at night, or just right at the first thing at light. And I had the trail cameras up there, and I did catch some at in February before we, before we pulled them. And they were there in the morning and at night, on a one day that there was a whole bunch of them there, and they're coming through there. So I just need to figure out how to get a tree stand, because we try to find a place for a tree stand and there's just no good place for it, that's going to give you a decent shot. So yeah, we got to figure that out. Get rid of some of the coyotes so we can
Yeah,
quit killing
coyotes
the
are,
deer.
yeah, they're crazy. They're all over. We got them right in the city of Buffalo now, running around coyotes. I seen a couple the other night, right across the street from my house. And I live on a main drag in the center of the city of Buffalo. I'm like, this is nuts. Coyotes this close to residential houses. This is kind of,
Oh,
these people have small pets and kids. I'm like, yeah, I'm not liking this idea.
no. Well, and where I live, I'm kind of out in the middle between Omaha and Lincoln, in a little village of about 168 people. So we have a lot of crops around us. The village isn't that big, and we like to say a traffic jam here is 3 cars behind a combine.
That's a good traffic jam.
Yeah, the combine's wide enough, they're going to take a good part of the road because it's just a single road going in, and
Right.
and no matter the 3 ways out, it's all single road or gravel road. So
Exactly. That's a good traffic jam, though.
yeah, I don't mind. The combine's going down. I was like, yeah, I'm not in a hurry. Like, just when they get a chance, they'll pull over far enough I can get by, and if not, they're not
Exactly.
going that far because it's only a mile out to the highway.
And they're going to the next field down anyways to jump on that field to do some cutting. So
Yeah, on the way out, there's a field on both sides of the road going out for that mile, and across the street's another field, and that's at one of the places we have to hunt by the creek, and it's interesting when you live in a small town. You can leave stuff out, nobody really bothers it. There's times we left and forgot to lock the house. I was like, we didn't lock the house. In fact, we let the front door open.
that's
You
a
know, on
nice
the porch.
like that.
You
That's nice
don't worry about it.
Definitely.
Get in the big cities, that's not the case.
Exactly. Big metropolitan areas ain't the case. You better lock everything up and lock everything down because you may not be there when you got home.
Oh yeah, we'd have to drive in great big pillars and anchor it down and everything else if we lived in a big city with some of the stuff we have.
No doubt.
Yeah, boat would disappear, the 4-wheeler disappear overnight. We just leave it parked out front like one of our cars most of the time.
See, a lot of the small towns around here, people even right out in front of their houses, in their driveway, doors wide open, garage wide open, sheds wide open. Nobody bothers nothing in some of the small towns.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Every once in a while we'll have something go on, but not too often.
Yeah, it's not as often to do in big cities, that's for sure.
No. Well, what are your parting thoughts that you would tell somebody that's just looking to start out in archery?
Go visit a local pro shop, talk to them, do some research. Your pro shop is the best place to buy a bow because they're going to set you up right. They're going to set that bow up to you right, correct draw length, get you set up with the right arrows, the right equipment. And some of the shops will offer, lessons on how to shoot the bow. Some will throw them in with the purchase of the bow from them. And again, supporting your small local businesses over a big box store. I promote, like I say, supporting a local business, your mom and pop shops, which most of these archery shops, pro shops, are mom and pop run stores, family operations. You're supporting them, where these big box stores like Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, whatever, are corporate conglomerates. You're not getting the service from them places as you would a mom and pop store. The kid that's working at archery counter today is working a clothing department tomorrow. And he may not be knowledgeable on the equipment he's selling, trying to set up. He may set up, not saying he will, but
Right.
potentially that it's not being set up properly to you then you're gonna have to take it to a pro shop. It's gonna cost you even more money now to have it
Yep.
set up to you. So my biggest suggestion is go to your pro shop, your local pro shop, wherever you may be. Try as many bows as you possibly can till you get one that feels right in your hand. It feels right to you. Decide to make that purchase again from a local shop where you're going to get that one-on-one service and commitment from that shop set up to you. And if the equipment is set up properly for you, you are going to have so much more enjoyment using that equipment, shooting that equipment, and you won't get injured with it being properly set up for you. Proper draw lengths and all that stuff like that. And you'll enjoy the sport more.
Yeah, that's kind of what I say, go to the pro shop because there's a better chance of having somebody knows what's going on. When you go to like Bass Pro and Cabela's, and I worked at both of them. Unfortunately, if you went to the Bass Pro when I was working there, we had 4 people that knew what was going on, knew how to work on bows. And then when I was at Cabela's, when I moved over to there, I was teaching the archery manager how to work on bows because he didn't know. And then another buddy of mine moved over, and then so we had people there that knew what's going on. But now when you go into last time in Cabela's, if you even had anybody in the archery department that knew anything, I had one guy I talked to, he said, well, I applied for something else and they said they had an opening in archery. And so, well, I shot a bow when I was a kid. So now he's selling bows.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you. I'm sure our listeners got some good information, and that's what always fun, talking with different archers all over the world. And yeah, it's been really great talking with you. And happy birthday again! And go enjoy the rest of your birthday and have fun.
Thank you, Roy. It was great talking with you. And you want to do another one of these sometime, we can. I'm game for another one. And it was definitely a pleasure talking with you. And I appreciate the invite. And thank you for the happy birthday. And everybody else out there, happy 4th of July. Enjoy your 4th with your family and be safe. And have a great archery season, everybody.
Yeah. My name is Roy Canterbury. I'm in host today on Archery Talk 101.